Episode 2. Here we go.
What you
Off
say
to
you
the
want to call
start.
the pod?
Broke hustlers. We'll go with broke hustlers. That's what you said. You said you liked it.
You said it. I said it.
Well, I threw it
confirm.
out there, and you said you liked it.
You
yeah.
have a knack for coming up with good names.
Do I? I don't know if I'd say I have.
But
a
Dr.
knack,
Green was whose?
No, it was Bud King that we came up with. We settled
Who's
on
we?
Bud.
Who's we?
Well, operating name was Bud King, and then Dr. Green was the corporate name. So.
But who? Okay. But actually,
And you know what?
Which one
Actually,
was
that
first?
actually causes a lot of problems when we were trying to get an account in the bank.
the Bud.
you-
Oh yeah, because that's a Bud in the name.
No, because it's Dr. Green Cannabis Corporation, and most major banks at the time were not like
But-
opening accounts for cannabis. Like it was still very
But
stigmatized,
here's
right?
the thing: you weren't there when. I don't know if you remember who was designated with the task of applying for all the licenses and doing all the paperwork. Do you remember who was?
Yeah,
designated
you
that
because
task?
that's what you were providing. That was what you were bringing to the table. We had the
I was thinking a lot more than that, but it's okay.
well, you had the knowledge in an industry that we had no knowledge on.
Uh-huh.
We were going into it strictly from a business standpoint. We were trying to make money.
You were
right?
going from a financial standpoint, let's say.
Well, no, that's what we were bringing in, but like what we wanted was like to make money. That's
Yeah.
that's what it was a lucrative investment at the time, or at least we thought it
We
was,
thought it was right.
right? So that's kind of what we were.
Yeah. But back to the Dr. Green.
Yeah.
It was Dr. Green before it was Bud King. And we were expecting to keep it Dr. Green. But I remember from my memory, when we were doing the licensing, that somebody or the government said you can't have doctor in the name unless you're an actual
I do remember
doctor.
that actually. Yes, I do
That's
remember
why
that.
we had
yeah.
to change the operating name to
Yeah,
the Bud King.
to the Bud King. That's right. Yeah, I
So-
do remember that. Yeah, and no, it wasn't the government. It was the AGOC.
Yeah, AGLC.
With all of their crazy regulations they had at the time, because it was literally the blind leading the blind. I mean, these people had no idea what they were doing as far as like trying to pioneer in this new industry. They figured, okay, well, we sell alcohol and we have this infrastructure in place for alcohol. Let's just copy and paste. But what they didn't realize is they didn't have legitimate statistics on marijuana, right? Because nobody was exactly going out there and saying, hey, I smoke weed when it was illegal.
Well, they had some they used from Seattle and different places.
Here and there, right? But they didn't have like an actual statistic in Canada. And
Okay,
so their
that's your point.
mistake was that when they started letting these shops open doors, they realized they didn't have enough product to supply the demand, right? Because I think it was the statistic at the time was I think for every one alcohol drinker, there was 3 pot smokers. And so,
I think it was the other way around.
no, it was not. When the
They
stats came
thought
out,
there were more potheads than
No,
more drink?
no. They thought that there was more drinkers and potheads,
you
but when
said
they
it-
actually opened the stores, they realized there's more potheads than drinkers at the
especially
time,
in
right?
Alberta. Fuck,
So
Edmonton.
they completely fucked up on the numbers, right? Like they figured, okay, well, we have this much product that we're gonna supply this many stores, and it should suffice for X amount of
We
time.
were wrong.
But they were extremely wrong, and that's why we were put on hold, right?
But you got to give it to them because Alberta, out of all the provinces, when Justin Trudeau said he's going to legalize, they were the only one or had the best.
Because they already had something in place. You have to understand, everything in Alberta is
They had
privatized
it in place, yeah, for
for
liquor.
alcohol. But that's what
But
I'm
they
saying.
had the right mentality. And
No,
it's-
but that's what I'm trying to tell you. They copied and pasted and thought that that's the way to go. They figured, well, we already have the infrastructure in place
Mhm.
for a private, alcohol business. So we're going to take that, right? Because it's already a private market
Yeah.
and apply that to cannabis. But they
Yeah.
were so wrong because like I said, they didn't understand that the demand was going to be completely different to what alcohol was. And when they kind of stumbled onto that problem, instead of providing a feasible solution for all of these people that had invested hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions of dollars, to actually be able to still make money somehow, they just simply said, hey, sorry, we just, I guess, miscalculated. Oops, we can't supply you with some products. You're going to have to continue paying rent, operation, and utilities until we're ready to let you open, because right now we got to get more LPs on board. It was an absolute shit show, man. It was the blind leading the blind. I'm telling you, like, they were literally pioneering an industry and they had no idea what the fuck they were doing, man.
do you have an idea, roughly, of the amount of people who got their licenses and opened? How many are still running, still open?
I'm sure I could find out. I have
No,
a buddy
that's fine.
that-
It's- What's
but
your gut
if-
tell you?
if- I don't know. If, like mom and pops, not many. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you which ones are. So when
Fire and
Alberta-
Flower and all those guys.
Well, those are corporates, right? But
That's what I'm
mom and pops, like, so when Alberta first legalized everything back in, what was it? October 17th of 2018 was legalization day. When they opened doors on that day across the country from east to west, when Alberta opened doors, they opened doors with 17 stores, okay? A couple of those stores were mom and pops. They were lucky, right? And what allowed those stores to open faster than the other ones, it was just a waiting line. We happened to be the 41st company to have been licensed at the time. So we weren't one of the first 17 to open across the province, right? Some of those mom and pop shops benefited because they started the race right when the race kicked off, whereas others were held back. It'd be like running a 100-meter dash and you have two guys that start off right when the gun blows, and then you have another guy that starts the second after, another guy that starts 3 seconds after, another guy that starts 10 seconds after. It's crazy. It was
All in
absolutely
all,
nuts.
It wasn't as fruitful as I made it out to be. Let's just say that.
It was. But like I said, I don't think that's. I think that was just their fuck up. I think that was the government. They completely.
Regardless
fucked
of who fucked it up, it wasn't what we thought it would be.
it could have been. It just
Could have, yeah, a lot of things could have been.
It was just timing. It was a lot of it was timing, and the process we went through to try to get the licenses.
I don't think it was just timing. I think even if they're perfect, the amount of competition when you have a free market, like there's some stores in Toronto that do really well, like relatively well, but it's not a cash cow like we thought it was going to be.
No, but that's the thing though, because it became about location. See, that was another flaw in their system. So when the Alberta government came on out with its regulations, first of all, they started changing rules as they went along. One day they'd wake up and be like, "Oh, you can't be 200 meters from a park." The next day they'd be like, "Oh, wait, no, you could be 200 meters from a park. You just can't be beside a daycare." And every day was something different with these people. You don't remember when you first went out there? It was all you could do all of that.
But that's not the
Back
point I'm
then,
trying to
you
say.
couldn't even be beside.
I'm talking
an
about right
alcohol store.
now. Once they figured all that bullshit out, it's hard to make money as a cannabis business because of the competition.
Yes and no. Again, it's all about location. If I got a store down at Yonge
Yes,
and
if
Dundas,
you have the best location,
yeah,
and
where
your
there's
best
foot
service,
traffic.
but
No,
then,
the service isn't even. It's about convenience. That's what it came down to.
It's more than just convenience. It's convenience.
Obviously, the service
hospitality.
plays a factor to an extent, but at the same time, you're gonna go to where it's more convenient. And if you live,
Not if the service is shit.
it's got to be pretty fucking shit for you not to.
Yeah, you should see a lot of places are shit. A lot of places you go
guess,
in there
but-
like, yeah, man, well, how can I help you? They're fucking stoned out of their mind.
I don't know about that, but
Were you blazing on the job?
no,
You can be honest. Just you and me here.
no, I wasn't. I wasn't.
Yes,
blazing.
I got you.
I wasn't. I wasn't blazing on the job.
Yes,
man,
you
no.
were. Bro, it's not a big deal. Fuck.
No,
you
man.
just said. Oh, actually, didn't you just tell me the other day that that's what kept you sane?
No, it's what kept me kind of more or less, I guess.
Yeah, you said while you were
functioning at such a high peak because there was no way I was working 16 hours a day. I was running a bunch of things. But yeah,
Okay, let's look at
is this what you want to talk about all day? Weed?
This well, all I did was brought up DJ Dr. Green, and
yeah.
then you went on a tangent
Terrible
here.
terrible name by the way.
Oh yeah, it's so terrible that you got your license plate with it. Oh, this must have been horrible.
Well, because Butkin was already taken.
Yeah.
Can't
So
take
yeah,
Butkin.
so obviously it was good. Okay, let's see here. Solar eclipse. Okay, solar eclipse. Some of these.
What was that about, anyways?
Yeah.
What was the solar eclipse about, anyways?
I think
I
you
didn't
got to
see
be a
anything.
scientist to really you need a degree, master, just to know what was going on. But to dumb it down for our audience, I think the solar eclipse was where the moon, the earth, and the sun all became in a certain alignment where for a small period of time, the moon covers
The
sun?
Yeah.
and certain areas on earth become completely dark.
Well, I didn't see any of that. All I saw was a bunch of mist. It was cloudy as fuck.
You didn't see the whole sky get dark?
It wouldn't say it was.
It was
dark.
pitch black.
No, it wasn't
Chris,
pitch
wasn't
black.
it pitch black?
I don't remember it being pitch black, but it was stupid. I walked out for like 5 minutes. I just stood there. It was just
You know what
cloudy and there was
wasn't
a bunch
stupid?
of wind, and that was
Did you
it.
see anybody selling those stupid glasses?
I saw them on Facebook Market
Bro,
for like $1,000,
I would.
and they were like trying to say on the description, "We have the picture to prove these are solar eclipse glasses."
Bro,
So I'm paying $1,000 to buy the glasses.
$1,000? They're $5 each.
No, the people selling them on Facebook Marketplace are selling them for
that's a
$1,000
scam.
because they put the glasses on when the eclipse was happening, and they took them a picture of themselves
Yeah, well, they're not getting
watching the
The
eclipse.
point is, bro, that's another example of supply and demand on a like a 1 day event.
Mhm.
I was at whatever.
Well, it's like the mask, right? Like what we were talking about
Yeah,
last time.
but
with
this
the
one was good because people were buying them. Like, if you stood on
Young and the Nest.
anywhere,
Yeah.
$5, $10. That day they would sell.
That would have been a
And I
great
actually put them
idea.
on. And it turns out it's not just for the solar eclipse. You know, like if you look at the sun directly now, you can't really do it. You have to squint to hurt your eyes.
Yeah,
If you put on those solar eclipse glasses, you can look directly at the sun. You can see its entire shape.
really.
Some people say, "Oh, who fuck cares?" But it's kind of cool.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's not like something that I.
But here's the thing with the solar eclipse: people. I'm not going to be. Yeah, some people.
You're not gonna be what, man? Just
I don't want
just,
to be racist, but
Well, just say it, man.
okay. So there was Indians, there was white people.
What kind of Indians? There's West
Yeah,
Indians
see,
and
now
there's
you-
East
well, you
Indians.
think- I'm not an expert on Indian. I know a little bit
Well,
about the Gujarati
Well,
and the Hindu.
there's sides of the world. There's the West Indians and the Caribbean,
Well,
and there's the East
Are
Indians.
you able
over
to
by-
tell by looking at them?
Yes, I can
well,
actually.
maybe I show you a picture.
Some of them are
I think
islanders,
they're-
and
no,
some of them.
they
and some
were
of
not
them-
West Indians. They were not
Okay,
from the West
okay,
Indies,
how
from
did you-
Trinidad and Tobago and from those
Those
places.
are West Indians.
I know. I'm
Okay,
pretty
so
good at
you can
geography. I
so
think
you
I know
can
that.
tell the difference then.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so therefore it's
But
pretty
I thought
obvious.
I wouldn't consider Trinidadians
They're West
Indians.
Indians.
Sure, technically they're West Indians, but
Yeah.
they're more Caribbean. They don't identify as saying, I'm West. Do they
Actually,
say?
they do. They
Yeah,
do.
yeah. But they don't. They
when
definitely
you,
don't
and
say
when
they're
you go
Indians.
and when you go to the market, it says West Indian foods.
Correct, but they definitely don't say Indian.
I got a couple of Trini guys that say they're West Indian.
Trini, have you tried Trini food?
I've tried some.
Okay, without going off topic. So those people,
Yeah.
they booked Airbnbs in Niagara Falls.
Yeah, I saw this.
Specifically
I
for the
saw
solar
this.
eclipse.
Yeah.
400 a night, 500 a night,
I know,
whatever
I
it
remember.
was.
Yeah, I remember.
And they put on their glasses for 10 minutes. Oh, this is the fucking worst shit I've ever seen. There was a place in Chile where there was actually really cool. And I can't even describe it. I just saw it on social media. But most places, it was a bit of a downfall. So people lost a lot of money.
I think it was an absolute waste of time. I lost about 5 to 10 minutes of my life just walking outside for absolutely no reason. It was fucking cold too.
Yeah.
And I just kind of walked back in, to be honest. That was my solar eclipse experience. And apparently this thing happens once every 1,000 years or 400 years or something like that.
Something crazy like
So,
that, bro.
I
But
don't
who
know.
gives a fuck, right? Okay,
It
next
is
topic.
what it is.
Oh
It
yeah,
is what it is.
Also, that though you just said it just the links were just
right? That's what I thought. It didn't copy completely. Okay, don't even worry about it, bro. Don't even worry about it. Okay.
Anyways,
What was I going to tell you? Oh yeah. Trini food. No, that's
so
boring.
let's talk about porting mortgages. Actually,
How'd you remember that? That's number 2. You're a pretty sharp guy.
Yeah, let's talk about porting mortgages. I mean, I know, I guess the basics of it, but why don't you give me a little bit of a rundown of how to port a mortgage, how somebody can port a mortgage, how they'd be able to qualify for one, if possible.
What is porting a mortgage? That's
Yeah,
what you're
let's
trying to
start with
say.
that. Yeah, what is porting,
Porting
a mortgage?
a mortgage is what it sounds. You're moving your mortgage from
Mhm.
one property to the next. So a lot of people who bought their house in the years of 2020, 21, 2022 got very low interest rates, less than 3% in many cases.
Mm.
And some of them got 5-year fixed. Some even got a 10-year fixed. And if you're selling your house and you have 3-4 years left on your mortgage locked in at 2%, you don't want to have to get a new mortgage at 6 or 7%. You want to keep your existing low rate and transfer it to the new property. That's why when you get a mortgage, you have to make sure it has a portability clause, because some lenders and some products restrict your porting options. And they'll make you, not only will you not be able to port it, but you have to pay a penalty to break your mortgage. So long-winded answer, but long story short, porting a mortgage, when you're selling your home, buying a new home, you're transferring your existing mortgage, your terms, your payments to the new property. You will have to requalify.
Okay,
With
and
income and credit?
what does that entail?
Same requalification. That requalification is the same as if you're buying a brand new house. You have to show your income documents. So if you're an employee, I want to see pay stubs. I need to see a job letter. I need to see your last 2 years of T4 slips. I might even call your employer and make sure you're still working there to make sure you're having enough income that in the bank size, you're able to service that debt. Because they don't want to approve a mortgage if you're not.
Yeah, no, of course. But you talked a little bit about some lenders allow you to do it, some don't. So I did kind of look into that a bit. So when we're talking about, let's say you have a mortgage with TD, for example, okay, and you're able to port it, right? And you go and buy a new property and you get requalified, again, with TD, or can you go with another bank?
If you're porting your mortgage, you have to stay with the same lender.
Stay with the same
Yeah.
one. Really?
Yeah.
You can't port from what if you're on a B lender and you want to go to an A lender? Like you
Then
can now requalify into
you
an
can
A lender.
refinance. You can get a brand new, sorry, not refinance. You can get a brand new mortgage. You can switch lenders. But if you want to get the same low rate that you have right now, the only bank that's going to have an obligation to give you that rate is the bank who gave you the mortgage.
Right.
No, CIBC wouldn't be dumb enough to give you a 2% rate when you have, when they're giving out 6% rates.
Okay,
they
so
would
now-
be losing money.
Right. So now what happens in the requalification process if you fail and you
I
can't
just had a
requalify?
case like that. It was an older couple who was with CIBC and they had some pension income, some part-time income. Long story short, they had a low rate, but CIBC would not approve them for the port. And the realtor who called me, he already sold their house. He called me a little bit late. In a situation like this, you want to call your bank ahead of time to make sure you're not scrambling to find a solution. So in those cases where you can't qualify for a port, you call your mortgage agent, your mortgage broker, and you see what current market options are available. And if you can't qualify for one bank, then other banks might be an option. Or we can look at what we call the B side, the alternative lending side, which allow you to borrow a little bit more. Worst case scenario, you might have to go with a private or not buy at all and go rent.
Do you recommend renting?
Do I recommend renting? In what circumstance?
Well, do you think you'd fare better by renting as opposed to owning today's market?
Financially?
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Okay, well, can you elaborate?
Sure. You wouldn't fare better financially by renting as opposed to owning, and the evidence is overwhelming. Assuming you are a qualified borrower. Jimmy, the homeless guy, I'm not going to say he's better off owning a house because he doesn't have any income or down payment.
Sure.
But for regular people who have an income and a good credit score and are going to be living in their residence, if you're renting, there's no equity appreciation. Let me rephrase that. If you're renting, you're paying rent and that's it. You have a nice place. You get to move around. You can cancel your 1-year lease. You have some flexibility. Maybe you could even sublease it. I've heard some renters in Toronto put their own place on Airbnb, even though they don't own it. Lots of good things about renting. Don't get me wrong. When you compare the financial aspect of owning a home over time, especially in the Greater Toronto area, you own the home, number one. As the market appreciates and your home appreciates, every single dollar it goes up is right in your pocket. So people who say the bank owns your home, it's a crock of shit. The bank doesn't own your home. The bank has a mortgage and they're using your home as collateral.
Yeah.
But the bank
They
doesn't get a
own it.
share of appreciation. When you buy a house for $1 million, it goes to $2 million. They don't get a cent of that appreciation. Only the owner does. That's number one. Number two, you get to own $1 million asset without having $1 million. You put down $200,000 of your own money. The bank gives you the rest, and you get all that appreciation on that $1 million asset, even though you're leveraging.
Well, I mean, when we're talking about the lifetime of a mortgage, you end up paying the cost of borrowing is definitely high. So assuming that you're not going to actually stick out the entire term of the house, then I agree with you. But I think if
No,
you're
I'm
gonna-
talking about taking the whole 30 years to
even if you,
the
even
grave.
if, really,
Yes, sir.
even at the cost of borrowing.
So that's a very good point because I was listing out the benefits,
Mm.
which I wasn't finished yet, but it's okay. We didn't talk about the cost. The cost is mainly the interest. And typically, your monthly carrying costs on your own property that you own versus renting, it's going to be higher. So you have to be able to afford it, number one. But yes, the vast majority of your monthly payments, especially in the first term or two, is going to be towards interest.
Probably say the first 10 years.
Depends on your rate. So I give you an example. I helped a client get a 1.6 5-year fix back in 2021. More than half of their payment was principal right away.
Because
away.
that interest rate was so low.
But now with the 5, 6, 7% interest rates, you're looking at 80 to 90%.
Yeah, they're getting it a little bit.
But
Just a
that's
little bit.
still that 10% that goes towards your principal, that's going right back in your pocket, which with rent, all of your payment is interest.
Yeah, but there is one great pro to renting, and that's the fact that you're not tied down to one particular country. I mean,
You don't
when you own a house or when you buy a house, you're more or less you're tied to that
Why?
country. Well, because you have to come back, you have to even if you get a property management company, I mean, then you got to slice off a little bit of the profit.
Okay, so
right?
slice off a bit of profit. I'd rather slice off a bit of profit and own an appreciating asset in a country that's going to give me a great return. Like when
Yeah, I guess
I
so.
manage my Airbnb to a certain extent, right?
How many
and-
condos allow Airbnb nowadays here in
I
Toronto?
think last time I checked, when I bought it, it was 14.
14. That's it. So you're telling me in
And
any
that's
of
why it comes with a premium, that unit.
that's crazy. What's the maintenance you pay on that? If you don't mind me asking.
On 675 square feet, we pay $550
Jesus
plus
Christ, man.
plus heating. It's
brutal, man.
not brutal.
It's a
It rents
brutal
out
economy,
6-7K
man.
a month. It's not brutal.
It's-
And you know what?
what's the mortgage on that?
What payment wise?
Mhm.
35.
3,500.
Sure.
That's not bad.
Not bad at all. The
Okay.
point is, listen, the difficult part is finding the right unit, making sure you don't get fucked on the mortgage,
Mm.
making sure the numbers make sense, furnishing the place, taking high quality pictures so people are going to stay there, learning how to use Airbnb. Once you do all of that, as long as you have a reliable girl or man or whoever who's going to go in there and clean your place and your communication is good,
Why'd you say girl or man like that, man?
because I mean, like most cleaning people are women. So,
Okay.
Um,
All right. I
whatever.
just wanted to kind of touch on that.
because
Continue.
no, the girl I have, she's really good. She's like 40, 50 years old, Jamaican.
No, I'm sure she is. It was just weird. that you said
$80.
girl
I
or
pay her
man, yeah.
flat. Even if she's only there for 1 hour, I pay her
Mm.
80. Because I don't expect her to come for $20. Even though it's 20 an hour, pay her 80 flat no matter what. Because the checkout is at 11, the check-in's at 3. So in those 4 hours, they clean, they make sure everything's spotless, and people come. One of the things they say the most is they like the view and that it's super, super clean. Which
Right.
you can't really get at a hotel most of the time.
Yeah, I mean, you're providing a service. It's nice.
But what I was saying is, once you have everything set up,
Mhm.
the maintenance or the property management aspect is relatively small. Like in the particular building that I have it in, the security makes us send in like a sign-in form, so I have to get the guest to sign something. I send it on DocuSign. It takes me 5 minutes. I call you
For every single guest.
every single guest.
Wow.
So that's a bit of work.
Yeah.
But
No.
because you know why? Because you're only allowed to rent your primary residence on Airbnb in Toronto for 180 nights per year.
Oh, they cap it.
After that, you cannot do short-term rentals. You can put it on Airbnb, but only for 4 weeks at a time.
So they gotta. Oof.
So
Interesting.
I had a
So
lady.
how are you maneuvering around that? Have you gotten stuck at that cap yet? Or
I've only had it since July last year, but
Oh.
I'm at like 120 so far this year. But once I hit that number, only 28 nights at a time. And I've already gotten a booking last December for a month. Excuse me, it's like 6 weeks. People pay the money, bro. So
Oh, I'm sure they do. Talking about paying money, why don't we talk about the big hot thing, the whole coaching thing?
oh
been
yeah,
going
that's
on.
what I wanted to talk about that. So lead me into it. Go
It's.
ahead.
I mean, people are paying absurd money to just. I guess there's just like desperate.
But what type of
desperate-
coaching?
Well, there's like life coaching and this whole like. Honestly, I don't know. To me, it's a
Are they a
facade.
therapist or are they a coach?
Well, they're supposed to be a coach, but maybe they do a little bit of both. I don't know. I haven't really taken it myself, but what I know is that people seem to have this like desperation to try and get out of this 9-to-5 routine or this 9-to-5 lifestyle, and they think that they need to hire somebody to give them some type of get rich answer. That the bottom line is you gotta just take a leap of faith
Well,
and
here's-
take a chance on
here's my
something,
take.
and you're gonna fail a bunch of times before you succeed, and maybe one of those times you will.
Well, to play devil's advocate, what if I want to pay someone who's already done it so I don't have to fail 3-4 times and I want to get all the sauce
Well,
and all
that's
the information right
that's
now?
funny you say that. That's the idea behind that. That's the whole concept behind it is, well, this person's quote unquote has already succeeded in what I'm trying to achieve. So I'm going to pay them to essentially pave the way so that I don't have to make the mistakes that they made. That would be the concept
And
behind
what's
it.
wrong with that?
Well, what's wrong with that is that these quote unquote coaches that are claiming to have already reached this success, a lot of the time are just fucking living out of a basement talking shit.
Well, what about the ones who actually have been successful? Are those coaches legitimate?
Well, I mean, depends on what you're trying to get
For
out
example,
of it, right?
let's say I'm a successful drop shipper. I have 10 years in drop shipping. I make $1 million a year. And now I want to expand into the coaching because I see some money in there. And I help people learn how to successfully drop ship. And someone wants to pay me so they don't have to make the same mistakes that I did so they can fast track it. Anything wrong with that?
Okay, well, here's my answer to that, right? Okay, so there's a reason why there's only a 1% of the population worldwide that's actually extremely rich and extremely well off, because not everybody can obtain it, right? So if what you're doing, you're good at, and you've been doing it for a long time, you're probably a part of the top percentile that are able to do it successfully and make the money that you make, right? So to have this belief that by trying to coach all these individuals to get to the same level of success that you've obtained is ridiculous.
I don't think that's their goal. They're trying to coach people who want coaching services. They're not trying to make them successful.
Okay, but for what? Like, why can't you just like?
Because there are individuals who are maybe lazy or don't want to put in the work to fail themselves and think
And
that
you think that all of a sudden these individuals that are going to be paying for these coaching service, who are now, as you said, lazy, going to quote unquote now what all of a sudden not be lazy and actually want
Absolutely
to put in
not.
the work?
no.
So then what's really happening here? It's
I
these
think
people
what's
are getting
happening
these
is
people are
people-
getting finessed out of their money.
No,
That's
no,
what's happening.
It's not finesse because they are
Yeah,
getting a
it is.
valuable service. Whether they choose to do anything with that valuable coaching, that's on them. If I coach you, I can't force you to go put in the work and learn the courses and do whatever.
But that's what I'm trying to explain to you. I'm not saying that there's anything necessarily wrong.
You said they're finessing.
Well, they are finessing. That's the truth. They're finessing
How are
money
they-
out of these
what-
people.
So they're not
Because they're tricking them into believing that they're going to attain something. But I'll tell you something. When I look at somebody and I talk to them, you can more or less tell right off the hop if this is somebody that's going to be able to do this or not. That's just the bottom line. Let's take it back to sales, for example. How many people you used to train at the doors? How many
lot,
people
a lot.
exactly. And right off the hop, more often than not, you'd be able to tell if this is somebody that was actually going to be able to do well in what you were doing it.
Okay.
Because you could see it, right? You've
sometimes
been
you're
in the
wrong.
field.
Sometimes you're wrong.
You are there, but there's this very small percent. And if you've been doing it for a long time, you can usually pick up on traits that you know are needed to do whatever job it is that you're trying
Yeah, but
to
if
do.
I'm a paying customer, are you going to not take my money?
But that's what I'm trying to.
That's
why.
the finesse
But
part?
that's why it's a finesse. That's right. Because at the end of the day, when they look at all of these individuals, there's a certain mentality that a person needs to have to succeed. They gotta want it. There's a certain drive. There's a certain ambition level that comes with it, and not everybody has it. Not everybody. It's just the bottom line.
I
It's the
agree. No, I
truth.
agree.
Not
tell
everybody
you this.
can go and hustle and make something out of nothing. Most people go out there to look for opportunity. There's very few that are actually creating opportunity. And that's just the reality of the
I-
world, right? So to sit there and genuinely believe, and going back on your whole moral dilemma that we were talking about last time, if you're getting into that business, there's an understanding that, I mean, you're finessing about 85 to 90% of the people that you're talking to, because there's very few people, and I agree with you when you say that there's the choice that they make to actually follow through with what they're being told to do. I agree, that's a choice, but at the same time, there's very few people that they're actually going to encounter, that they're actually going to coach, that are going to really hit these levels of success that they've also hit, right? It's very few people. So for most of these people, yeah, it's an absolute waste of money, because there's only certain things that can be taught.
Yeah.
I can sit here till I turn blue in the face to try to teach you something,
yeah.
but if you're not willing to soak it in, take it, and put it into practice, it's just...
And not only that, Oscar, I think the people who will be successful in whatever field they do, I don't think they look for coaching right away. I think they do try and figure it out themselves, make some mistakes, and go. So sure, there might be some students of those coaches that do well, but I
don't think they do as well as the coach ever.
Sure, but I would think that the people who want to be successful don't always go for a coach right away. Like, I've heard some.
Would you pay for somebody to coach you? In life, like a life coach, to get you into a positive mindset, into a daily routine, into good habits. Would you pay for somebody?
I would be open to paying for coaching in something that I don't know a lot about. If I wanted to learn about it, sure.
Well, but then you're not paying for coaching. You're more or less paying for training at that point, right?
Well,
That's not coaching.
Okay.
What I'm saying is these people are paying. Okay, listen, these people, and it's a lot of, it's from what I've noticed, and again, I have a very limited, I guess, knowledge on this industry, because I know one or two people that are doing it, and it's like good for them. They're making money. Good for them. But from what I've seen, it's a lot of the clientele is a lot of men, right? And it's not very many women that are seeking out these life coaches for to build these good habits and these positive rituals and these routines, so that they can get their life in order, so to speak. And again, I think a lot of that comes with the pressure that maybe men feel to try to elevate themselves through status and money and whatnot, right? Because that eventually leads to respect and whatever, right? So these coaches, these quote unquote life coaches, like, what are they providing? Like, what is the fulfillment that they're providing? They're telling them what? Oh, well, go to the gym every day. I mean, like, did you really need to pay to somebody to tell you to go to the gym every day? That's pretty fucking absurd, man. Like, it's either you're going to do it or you're not going to do it. You paying somebody to do it might somewhat motivate you more to do it. But if they're not physically there present every day to make sure you're going to the gym, then it's, that's the whole point of a trainer. Why do people pay for a trainer? Because they teach them, yes, things that they don't know. They teach them proper form. They teach them other exercises, and they expand their knowledge as far as exercising, but also because they provide that discipline. They are on top of you. They tell you, hey, are you showing up today? Are you going to be here? Ultimately, yes, you make the choice, but you're paying for somebody to provide that type of discipline for you. When it comes to coaching, they're telling you to go to the gym. They're not there present with you. You're paying for somebody to tell you to go to the gym. You're paying for somebody to tell you, like, what? That's some sort of scheme that you think that if you apply, you're going to all of a sudden change your life and become rich. It's not realistic, brother. It's just not. It's not realistic. If you want to go and make something of yourself, you need to take a leap of faith into something that you feel as though you'd be great at, providing some kind of service out there to somebody, and make money on your own accord and just chase it down. I mean, that's really the only way to, I feel like, try to attain some type of success in any kind of field. I mean, and I think the fastest way, if you're talking money wise, is probably getting into sales. I mean, sales is where the money's at, right?
So what are you trying to say about Baldy's business here?
Baldy already knows. I told him, I actually congratulate him all the time.
You congratulate him for being a finesser?
Absolutely, man. It takes a very particular type of individual to finesse people all the time like that. Are you kidding me? He's getting in front of people. Think about that concept. You're getting in front of somebody that you've never met before. Most of his clients, by the way, are in America. They're in the States, right? So he's a 19-year-old kid getting in front of mainly all of the audience that he's dealing with are older than him, right? Sure. So he's getting in front of people that are older than him, who one could argue would have more experience than him, and shifting their belief. And that's what's key about that business and sales as a whole, is when you can change somebody's belief system and you really get them to believe in what you're saying, you can get them to buy anything and do anything. And that's just the bottom line, right?
Yeah,
so
good.
He's good at it, right? And he makes good money off of it, and I'm not knocking him for it. All I'm saying is that if we're really gonna analyze the situation as a whole, what are these fucking people paying for here, man? Like to get told to build better habits and stop smoking and go to the gym and if you
Well, that's
save up
mindset.
and if
That's
you
mindset.
invest, like think about everything that you learned. Okay, when you walk out of high school, there's nobody telling you. Like I don't know about you specifically, man,
Mhm.
but me personally, I didn't know what the fuck a mortgage was when I walked out of high school, man.
Mhm.
That's just the bottom line. I didn't know how to do my taxes.
Mhm.
I didn't know real estate.
Have fun.
I didn't know what real estate, how it worked, what the process of equity was, or
Yeah.
buying a house, selling a house,
Yeah.
insuring a car. Like I didn't know all of these steps, these basic steps of life. You know what I mean? And how did I learn them? By looking them up. Like we have such a useful tool. Like the internet can, people could, say that it could be bad, but there's also a lot of good to it. You know what I mean? And one of the good things is that it's easy access to information. And so when you don't know something, you're able to look it up and educate yourself. Obviously, not to become an expert, but to at least have a basic understanding of what it is that you're trying to, get knowledge on. Right. And so a lot of the time, I feel like just people need to go out there and just do it, man. You
Mm.
know what I mean? Like it just, I don't know. That's
got
just,
you.
that's what
I got you.
that's what I think about it anyways.
Good trip. Chris, is there any way to put up the AC a bit more?
Got it up.
It's that full? Okay. Don't worry about
Jesus
it.
Christ,
Yeah, no, I'm good, I'm
no
good.
doubt it.
I'm good. I'm good.
So they're looking get warm under the lights.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good.
Um,
No, you're fine. Okay.
But anyways, yeah, like I said, to end that off, good job, on Baldy's end. He's doing his thing, brother. He's making good money. He's making I can't knock him on it. He's getting in front of people that he's never met in his life, shifting their belief system, and finessing $7,000 out of them every single time he gets on a call. I mean, fuck, it is what it is. And so, who's making money in the mortgage industry?
I'd say top 10% of mortgage agents and brokers are doing 90% of the business to some degree. The reason I say that is it's all volume. We have access to FSRA, which is the Financial Services Regulatory Authority of Ontario,
Mhm.
and they have certain metrics, statistics, like how many people are leaving the industry, how many new mortgage agents are coming. When the real estate boom happened in 2020, 2021, and 2022, a boatload of mortgage agents and real estate agents wanted to get licensed because they see all the people bragging on Instagram. Not bragging, but look at this house I sold. I just did this mortgage.
Yeah,
People think it's easy money.
yeah,
And by the time they get their license, 8 months later, the market crashed and they don't have any leads. And,
yeah.
where's their business? So it's definitely not as easy as people think. And once you have a solid business and you have a good infrastructure and you have a good lead system and underwriters and fulfillment specialists, you grow from there as long as you do good service. So to get to that point is very difficult.
Mhm.
So the people making money in the mortgage industry from a mortgage agent perspective are a handful of people. I think because I was a part of a brokerage that looked at all the metrics, all the sales of the entire brokerage in terms of the agents. I think top 5% were doing $250 a year or more in commission. That was the metric. So if you're doing less than $250,000 a year in gross commission, if you're doing more than $250,000 a year in gross commission, you're in the top 5%. Other than that, most people are doing less than that. I would say like half the people are doing less than 100, which is not that great if you're an experienced agent. So.
Well, going back to what you were saying as far as like building a structure, and once you have something in place, I guess it's a little bit more stable to get that repeat business. And I'm sure obviously you have clients that come back. How are you generating these clients initially?
Initially, I was, you can say, networking, for a lack of a better word, with different real estate agents when I just started.
Well, I know that's what you were doing when you started, but generally speaking, what's the approach? Is that everybody's kind of go-to? Just try to reach out to as many realtors as you can?
That's the old school approach.
Mhm.
Is realtors, financial planners, accountants, bankruptcy, insolvency trustees. The most common is realtors. That's what they were pushing. When I started, very, very few people were saying go on social media because it wasn't a successful route for mortgage brokers at that time.
Mhm.
But when I started and I was calling real estate agents, one of the guys I work with now, the first thing he said to me is, "Oh, Aubrey, are you on Instagram?" And I kind of got nervous. I chuckled, "Not really, man, but I'm good at this or I'm good at that." And I just kept calling him. And then I realized how good of a presence, a platform that might be.
Mhm.
So that way, when I do speak to real estate agents and they do see my Instagram, they see that I'm backing up what I'm saying and I'm not just full of shit. Not to say that you can't connect with real estate agents and get mortgages without a social media presence, but it definitely helps. So I'd say, me personally, expanding your network, being present on social media, and servicing your clients very well. If you do all those three, your business will take off. But I know other people who get business in other ways. There are some mortgage agents who buy leads. The quality is obviously a lot less. They're online leads. So you might buy 100 leads and hopefully close one.
What's the average cost of these leads?
Depends where they're from, the type. I've seen people pay upwards of $300 a lead.
Jeez, wow.
And I've seen $20, $30 a lead. When I started, I was with a brokerage that sold leads, and I spoke with some, and there was some business there, but it's not the type of quality that I like. Like when someone sees me on TikTok and they've been watching me for a few months and they want to buy a home and they call me, they already know me. They already know how I talk.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to speak to someone like that as opposed to you see an ad on Facebook and some random stranger calls you.
Yeah.
So it's a completely different close rate.
Absolutely.
The client is already warm to the idea of working with me, and they've decided that they want to.
Well, and I mean, I think the idea behind putting a face to the name, goes a long way too, as far as, like you said, more or less kind of getting a feel for you before even having to speak to you, right? So they get an idea of what they're working with or what they're getting, I guess, before they even get it, right? Which is nice, for sure.
The one thing I would say about buying leads, where it does come into play, where I would recommend it, is if you are brand new, and you could have studied the REMIC textbook, the exam, all you want, but you won't get really good at explaining mortgages, at walking someone through the process without going through leads. So if you're brand new and you don't have a shitload of leads in front of you, you should buy 100, 200 leads, assuming you can afford it. Go through them, make mistakes, learn from them, ask your principal broker what to do. Once you've gone through that lead cycle, now when you take on the actual good leads from your real estate friends, or if someone calls you a family friend, you'll actually know what to do. And they don't have to be your guinea pig, but you can, get good on files by working the paid leads. That's what I would recommend for someone who's new.
Well, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel as though the mortgage broker side of the business is more of the administrative side, and the realtor side is more of kind of like the charismatic, and
I wouldn't say so.
You talk to people more often, and you're more, I guess, of a likable character. Whereas on the mortgage broker side, you don't go face to face with your clients. You're more kind of on the back end dealing with a lot of the administrative side of things.
I disagree.
So
I'm face to face with all my clients, whether it's rarely it's in person, but on Zoom or phone call or whatever, we speak. Like part of my compliance, I have to make sure that the person on the ID is the person in front of me. So that's number one. And I think, if I'm looking to get a mortgage and I don't like the mortgage agent I'm dealing with, the vibe is off, or I don't feel good.
Not the vibe, but I mean
you don't
more
have to be
so
charismatic. You don't have to be salesy because there's no sales.
But that's exactly it, right? I mean, you're dealing more on the back end, right? You're kind of the last step before they're able to get their house. So you're not
the first step.
Well, the pre-approval is, but I'm saying like once you find a house and you're close on it, and
I'd say it's more like your level of service and your level of knowledge. When a borrower or client is using a mortgage broker, they just want to know they're in good hands. So you have to show that you're confident, that you know what you're doing. You get back to them on time. You have the answers that they need, and you have to explain the process and be there for them. Simple as that, really. It's just about, a lot of it's about customer service, really. Like I've had clients who were using their broker who might have been really charismatic, but didn't get back to them for 2 weeks on a pre-approval, and they want to buy a house. So they call me and I get back to them the next day and they buy it. So a lot of it comes down to service. But I think there's two aspects. There's getting them to contact you, and then what you do once they contact you.
Did you ever consider being a realtor at any point, or was it kind of just not what you wanted to do?
I thought about it because I realized on one transaction, if me and my real estate friend, partner, whatever you want to call it, is working a transaction, I might get paid $4,000 for the mortgage, and he might get paid 2% or 2.5% of the purchase price. He might get paid $25,000. So I thought, well, why is he getting 25 and I'm getting 4? But then when I looked at it, the amount of work involved, he's taking them in his car, seeing 5, 6, 7 houses, writing offers back and forth. He spent a lot more time, probably more than 6 times the amount of time that I spent. Once I have all your documents in front of me, I pre-approve you. Once you submit an offer and it's accepted, I submit it to a lender, they approve it. It's everything signed. A full file, if you're a good mortgage broker, a full file takes you 5 hours. 5,000 in 5 hours. That's what it should take. So have I considered being a real estate agent? Yes, but it probably wasn't my style and it just wasn't for me.
Well, what about What about just doing the process from A to Z, right? Just selling the house, getting the mortgage on the house. You ever thought about that, or is it just a little too much work?
I don't like being the jack of all trades.
Yeah.
I think in general, not just mortgages and real estate, when you get really good at one thing, you focus on, you do it very well. That's the best you can be at that area. That's going to be much more fruitful and successful than trying to sell the house, mortgage the house. I'll get the insurance on it too. I'll mow your lawn. I'll remove your shingles on your roof. You know what I mean? So I focus on one thing.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Where'd you get that watch from?
This watch,
New watch for
I
you, for you.
actually, I don't even know where I got this watch. To
You've
be
had it for a
honest.
while?
I think so. I have no idea where I got this watch actually.
Let's talk about the barrio.
The Barrio. Oh, you want to talk about the Barrio?
So tell me
Yeah,
growing
so
up
you
how it
just
was.
got back on.
No,
well,
you.
Oh, you want me to
Yes,
talk about the Barrio?
Yes, you.
Okay. Well, I mean, lead it off.
Where
man.
were you
Ask
born?
me a question.
Where were you born?
I was born in New York.
So I can tell you have a bit of an accent. You say, what was the day before today?
Yesterday.
You didn't. You did it on first. Okay.
No, hi.
Because
What?
you said
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yesterday.
Well, it's. I don't know if I have an accent, but I was born in New York.
Or a speech impediment, one of the two. Go ahead.
I was born in New York, Queens actually, Flushing Hospital, Flushing area in Queens, and I lived there for the first 18 months of my life, and then there was some trouble with my parents at the time, and my mom couldn't really take care of me, so she sent me back to get raised with my maternal side of the family, so her mother,
Your
my
abuela,
grandmother,
abuelita.
my abuelita, that's right. And that's when I was in the barrio, man, playing some soccer on the streets, walking around shoeless, and living the best time of my life. Probably one of the best times of my life, anyways.
And how do you remember that time? You said the best time, so how do you remember?
Yeah, well, well, I just have good memory, I guess. But one of the actually funniest things that happened to me when I was used to live in the barrio. I remember one time. So I used to speak to my mom over the phone, right? I never actually knew I didn't have a face to my mom because
Do you have any pictures?
well, like there was some pictures, but I was so young at the time, and all I knew was that my mom lived in the States. That's all I knew. And what I knew at the time was my grandma was my family, and her sisters, which were my aunts, like my mom's sisters, and her kids, which were my cousins. And there's a lot of women in my family, right? There's only like I think a handful of guys between all the cousins. There's like 30 cousins, only like 5 or 6 or something like that are men. And so I was raised by, the whole saying of it takes a village to raise a kid. It was sort of like that, right? Like a lot of my family kind of just was like in and out raising me and stuff. And so I used to talk to my mom on the phone all the time. And I just know that she'd send money to my grandma to buy me things, food, clothes, whatever, right? And one time my mom sent money to my grandma to buy me a tricycle. And so I get this tricycle, man. It's the newest thing on the block, brother. It's styling. Like no other kid has this tricycle, man. We're talking third world country back in the late 90s. You know what I mean? Like it's a poppin' tricycle, man. And I remember I pulled up to my house and I was just riding around my tricycle and I parked it right in front of my house, man, right in front of my door. And I really needed to pee. And I don't know if you can, I guess, resonate with this, but when you're a kid and you're doing something and you're playing a game or you're out with your friends playing whatever, and you got to use the bathroom, you're like really just like sometimes you just hold it because you just don't want to,
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean?
Mhm.
You don't want to like step away from the
Yeah, I
fun
got you.
thing you're doing. So I had been holding it for a while. So I run into the house to go use the bathroom. The bathroom's at the back of the house, and this is an open concept house. So imagine a bungalow where like half the roof is missing because that's just the style of houses that they build in that type of world, I guess,
Yeah.
right? Like it's open concept. The living room area is open concept. So when it used to rain on like you'd have to like walk around. It was crazy. But so anyways, the bathroom's the back of the house. I go to use the bathroom, and I'm not even kidding you, man. It would have been maybe about fuck if I took longer than like a minute, I'd be shocked. But I came back. I'm probably about 3.5 years old. I came back and my tricycle's not there. I look down the street and there's some asshole, man. Some like fucking 25-year-old fucking douchebag just running down the street with my tricycle.
Not
man.
riding it.
No, he's running. He has it
Yeah,
in his
okay.
arm and he's running.
Yeah.
And that was a very scarring moment, man. I to this day I still remember that. That was 27
You never got
years
it back?
ago. I never got it back. I remember I was very upset about it at the time. And yeah, that's one memory that kind of stands out to me
Oh,
when I was
wow.
growing up in Colombia. It was pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, it was. I think it was a good experience. I think it definitely builds a lot of. I mean, I don't know if I could say at that age that living in a third world country necessarily builds character at those particular like young years of your life.
Because you're used to it.
But yeah, but I think that it definitely gives you a different view of the world for sure. You know what I mean? And I lived there till I was about 7 years old, and then my mom was a little bit more financially stable, so I moved back to the States, and then I lived in the States. I went to school there in New York till I was about 12, and then eventually we came up to Canada, and I've been living in Toronto ever since. But if I were to say which one's home, definitely Toronto. I mean, I've lived here most of my, I lived here all of my teenage years and most of my adult life, right? So,
How do you think a gringo would?
fare in the barrio, I think they'd be great, man. I think they'd be great. I mean, you did fine, right?
Well, were you showering with buckets?
Yeah, I was showering with buckets, man. That's a
Did,
normal
did the
thing.
toilet flush?
They don't. The toilet did flush where
There
I
you go.
was,
That's a good plus.
but that is a good plus. But the reason why, so there's no hot water in a lot
Right.
of these
Yeah, we
places,
don't
right?
have
So
hot water.
it's actually a luxury to have some type of water heating system in your home. So and I think I sent you the picture of the washing, the way that
Yeah,
so
yeah.
the way I was raised washing clothes was you'd have a deep sink,
Yeah.
right? And you dip your clothes into this, like you fill it up with
Water,
water,
yeah.
cold water, right? 'Cause
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
no hot water, and then you dip all your whatever amount of clothes can fit in there. You take out each article, and attached to the sink was this like, I guess it'd be like a table almost with ridges on it. You know how when you're sometimes driving down the street, you have these like little ridges,
Yeah,
not
yeah. I hear what you're
the
saying.
bumps, but the little
The ridges,
ridges.
yeah, yeah.
I think there's a few when you're merging onto a highway. I want to say 401 onto the 400. There's
Yeah,
there's some ridges. But anyways, these ridges, it's on the table right beside the sink, and it's attached to the sink. And you'd more or less kind of just with soap, you'd put the soap on the shirt, the wet soaked shirt or underwear or whatever, and you'd scrub it up against these ridges, right? And that was washing. That's how I learned what washing clothes was. And then once you scrubbed it, you put it back in the water and you rinse it off. You squeeze it, right? You rinse it and then you just hang it up to air dry, right? And that's how I learned how to wash clothes in the late 90s in
Yeah.
Colombia, man.
When I was there in Dominican, in Santo Domingo,
Mhm.
It was quite a shock.
Yeah.
It was quite a shock because
Can
they didn't
imagine.
tell me what I was expecting. You know, I knew I wasn't expecting the 5-star hotel.
Well, but hold on a second though. So we need a little bit of context to that, right? You didn't just,
How much we at? Oh, yeah, 15? Okay, cool.
yeah, we need a little bit of context to that because we don't really like. So what exactly? Okay, so obviously I know that you were up here. You were talking to some people down there. You ultimately decided to just hop on a plane after having started your mortgage business, and I guess it was going somewhat good at the time, at least. I would imagine
It was going really good.
it was going really good. You had some money in the bank. You were feeling happy. You wanted to go down to tropical areas and talk to some girls. All right, so
Not
you
really.
get down there.
That wasn't it.
You get
That
down
wasn't
there.
it, but go ahead.
You get down there, and now you're in Santo Domingo.
Yeah.
And like, why Santo Domingo? Why not Puerto Plata? Like, were you planning on staying there as long as you did, or it just
Actually, the first time I went there, I was planning on staying there for 3-4 months, but I quit. I went home early
how early?
after 1 month.
Okay, why?
That's more of a complicated answer. Can't get into that.
Was it just because it just wasn't panning out the way you had kind of envisioned it, or
Yeah, that's one way to put it. But
okay? So you stayed there for a month, and where did you stay? In the capital, Santo Domingo.
Santo Domingo. Yeah, I didn't want to go to. I knew that in Puerto Plata and in Punta Cana is the resorts.
Mhm.
So sure, I could have found some
More-
Airbnbs there, but
Yeah.
I wanted to live like a local.
You wanted to submerge yourself in the culture,
Yeah,
which is
So
fine.
I gotta-
Where did you live? In a condo, in a house?
yeah, in a place called Ensanche Naco. It's a nice.
How did you get around? What car did you? Did you have a rental? when you
No,
were-
fuck a rental, bro. Uber there is so cheap. You can get an Uber for $1,
I
and you
guess,
go on
yeah.
a motorcycle. It's sick.
How, okay, but you didn't speak a word of Spanish. So
Yo hablo
what did you do?
español. What do you mean? No, at the time I didn't speak a lot. You're right.
Yeah.
But
So what did you do? Like, did this go into the thinking process? Like,
Yeah.
because here's the thing.
what's-
Here's the thing. I've been on both sides of the fence. Okay, I've lived in third world countries. I've lived in first world countries. And if I, knowing what I know now, look at it from this point of view, having maybe put myself in shoes where I've never been to a third world country, and I don't know if I would be able to.
I
just,
would, because worst
kinda-
case, you have your phone, you have Google Translate. Worst case,
No, absolutely, but I think there's more to it than just that.
Like what?
I mean,
Like what?
Well, you don't know the language, so yes, you have the Google Translate,
Well, but
sure,
what do
but
you
you
mean?
don't know how to get around. Okay, you don't know the
Yeah,
streets.
you know how to get around.
You don't
First of all,
really
you
know
have-
what's going on. You don't know what the
No.
culture's like. It's very different down there.
Well,
It's not.
that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to just learn as I go, and that's what I did.
That's brave. That's brave. I commend you for it. But so you got down there. You were living in a condo or
Living in a condo on Airbnb, I
Ubering
rented it for-
everywhere and
I rented
working
for a month.
and working
I didn't Uber.
remotely.
There was a supermercado called Nacional, which is the best supermercado there, right across the road.
What's a supermercado?
You don't know what a supermercado is?
Of course, I know what it is.
It's
but
a
what is it?
supermarket.
Okay.
And it's walking distance. So
Yeah.
I walk there. Very busy streets, all the best fruit and everything. And when I went there, it was still COVID. They actually made you show a piece of paper that said you got vaccinated. And I wasn't vaccinated at that time. So I just show some English document on my phone, a PDF on Adobe. I open it up and say, here. He doesn't know what the fuck it is. He's like, okay, go ahead. Because they weren't letting you go shopping in some places.
Yeah,
which is
well,
crazy.
yeah.
So I got my groceries. I came back. If I need to go somewhere, you know, Uber's good there. The traffic is horrible, but Uber's good. On Sundays, there's no traffic. But yeah, I rented a
What
place.
do you think of Dominican driving in comparison to Canada?
I felt like they're all like me. They're all like you and me driving there. So a lot of those drivers are very skilled drivers.
Absolutely, I agree.
And when you compare the driving there to the driving in Toronto, it's like Toronto's a bunch of pussies in terms of their driving. Like you honk or you go a little bit in, they're like, "What are you doing? You're cutting me off." No, this is normal driving. So if the Toronto drivers went in Dominican, they would lose their shit. You know what I mean? But
Okay, so you went down there. You were there
I
for
went
a
there.
month.
I was in that's the thing. I was in the Airbnb, had hot water, everything you need, electricity.
So you really weren't submerging yourself in the culture.
Not then.
Yeah.
But then when I met Whitney,
Well, hold on a second. You went back to Toronto
went back to Toronto
for how long?
a month.
You got to give a little bit of
Okay, sorry,
context
go
here.
ahead.
You're
Go ahead,
trying to
sure.
catch up. You
Yeah,
know
yeah.
what I mean?
Okay,
There's
sorry,
3
no.
years of gap that I'm missing
Yeah,
here.
gotcha.
Okay,
came
so
back
you
to
went back
Toronto.
to Toronto, continued on to the mortgage thing, and then
Well, I was working while I was down there.
yeah, no,
brought
I
my
know,
laptop.
but you came back. You
I came
carried
back
on,
in January. I got my double jab. I was sick in the bed.
and you'd met some people down there. I guess somehow, some way. I guess you met your baby mama,
yeah,
for lack of a better
yeah,
word.
yeah,
I guess.
yeah.
And so you went back down there.
Went back. Yeah,
Okay, how long after you came back?
I was a month in Dominican,
Yeah.
a month in Canada,
And then
waiting
went
out the
back.
shots, and then I went back for life for like 2 years.
For 2 years, you stayed there.
I stayed there for a year and a half. Yeah,
Really 18 months straight without coming back to
I
Toronto.
came. No, I came back when my grandmother died, and when I need to see a doctor, I got
Your
dengue.
bubby?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know your baby passed away.
on my mom's side. Yeah,
Oh.
you never met her.
You got dengue? Jesus.
Dengue. I got dengue.
That's
yeah.
crazy,
That's
bro. That's a
horrible.
serious
It
virus,
was.
man.
I thought I was gonna die. Yeah, I lost 30
Absolutely,
pounds.
man.
30 pounds.
Holy smokes.
And
Yeah.
the thing is, it took the Toronto hospital 2 weeks of testing to find out I had dengue. And I'm so dumb. I'm thinking, oh shit, I'm really sick. I can't go to the Dominican hospital. Dengue is very common there. They probably would have looked
Well-
at me for 1 second and said, this guy's got dengue.
Well, see, that's so interesting you say that because there's this big like misconception about third world countries and their health systems. People seem to think that they're just inept and they think that like they're stupid and they don't know what they're doing.
To some
But
degree,
no,
from my experience.
There's a lot of doctors coming out of India, man. That's a third world country. You know what I mean?
Let me tell you
they're not uneducated. They know what they're doing. Number one. Number two, here's the difference between a health system down there versus a health system up here. Down there, if you got money, not only are you skipping the line, but you're fast tracking the service and you're fast tracking the treatment. Up here, you don't have that kind of luxury, and they take forever to get
Yeah,
back to you.
But the service
So-
itself is not as good. Like, let me tell you this. I'll
I
give you an
disagree.
example.
I
Have
disagree.
you been there? No.
Of course,
In-
I've been.
In
Well, I've been in
Colombia, it's not
Colombia.
Dominican. Listen.
Not far.
You know
off.
when you get
It's
a
not
blood,
far off.
you know when you get a blood test here,
Mhm.
a nice nurse calmly puts, and I don't like needles, but she puts the needle in your arm. She takes some blood.
Okay.
It really doesn't hurt that bad, right? Yes or no?
I know what you're getting at.
No, you don't. Let me finish. Let me
You're
finish.
talking about they're a little bit more rough.
No, they
Okay,
weren't rough.
so-
They weren't rough. I was sick. They were trying to find my blood. I don't have like big veins, so
Yeah.
they couldn't find it. She's stabbing me at least 5 times to the point where I almost passed out.
Listen,
She couldn't find my vein. And
Listen
she's
to
like,
me.
"What is this gringo doing?" Boom, boom.
listen. They're
not-
they're a little bit more rough. So what?
They're
You know,
little-
they get the job done. They do it faster, and it is what it is. You know what I
I
mean?
don't. Well, listen. If I
I'm
get
sorry
sick,
they
I
didn't
don't want-
fucking, I guess, cared for you enough when they were trying to poke
No,
you and
listen.
find your vein, man. But
And they're sitting there laughing. They're like, "Oh, this gringo. He's really having a hard time here."
quite frankly, I feel more and more comfortable with the medical
people?
system. Yeah, well, here's the thing: they touch you. Okay, what's
touch
wrong?
you? What are you
Like they grab your arm. They look. They're like, okay, what's your problem? What is it? Here, man, they're afraid to look at you because
Yeah,
they
I don't
think
believe
you're
in
gonna
any
throw them a
doctors.
malpractice
But
lawsuit.
the point
for
is, we got to
fuck's
get back
sakes.
to the story, bro, about the bar. Okay, so I was paying for an Airbnb between 2 and 4K Canadian a month, depending on how luxurious I want to go. You can find an Airbnb for even
Between how much?
2 and 4K
2 and 4 what?
thousand for Airbnb.
You were paying $2,000 a month for an
Sometimes even
Airbnb in a third world country. Why wouldn't you just get a place at that point?
because I wasn't committed yet. I was like, want to keep things open.
And what do you think is gonna happen if you commit to a place for a year and give them? Or-
That did happen. I found a place for $2,500 US, fully furnished. the best building in Santo Domingo with a pool, security, like a nice lobby, cleaners, everything. I had to pay 3 months up front, $7,500 US up front.
So 10 G's.
Yeah. And I ended up canceling 6 months in. I lost my deposit. So that's what happens. But the point is, I was renting, going from place to place, because first of all, it has to have good internet. Because if it doesn't have good internet, I can't make a call. And then after a few months of doing that, I'm like, why don't I just stay in Winnie's house? She has a 5-bedroom, 2-story penthouse in like not the best neighborhood. It's not modern, but she has a ton of room. Her family's there cooking, washing my laundry, cooking for me. Aubrey, do you want more huevo fritos and more platanos? Okay, Aubrey, they're giving me coffee, giving me everything. Why don't I just go there? So I did. The trade-off was...
So it took you a year to figure this out?
No. I moved in April. It took me 4 months.
Okay. It took you 120 days to figure out you could be living rent-free at your baby mom's place. So you ultimately made the change, and then you truly submerged yourself into the culture. Because now you're showering with buckets, with cold water.
No, not the cold water. The whole family's showering with cold water.
Mm-hmm.
I
would warm it up.
I take water. Sometimes the tap doesn't work. So they have this big reserve bucket of water.
Yes.
So
sometimes you'd have to dump a little bit of it into the toilet for the toilet to flush as well.
You know your stuff.
That's right, yes.
So I take that bucket of water.
Yeah.
I turn on the estufa, or how do you say it?
The stove.
In Spanish.
Stufa. Yeah, you said it.
The estufa. Yeah. And hopefully we have enough gasoline to light the thing. Otherwise, you have to wait a day for someone to deliver the gasoline.
Yeah.
You light it up.
They deliver it in those little tanks.
And I'm being very careful because if I spill this hot water, the wood's going to burn. I'm going to burn myself. And they're all looking at me like, wow, you can't take a cold shower? What's wrong with this guy? So I take that bucket of water.
So that's a lot of work. It'd just be a lot easier to step into the shower and deal with it,
with
man.
That cold water?
Yeah,
no, I got a heart condition. I can't do that. Listen, I get the cold water. I bring it up. I put it in a bucket. I mix it with a little bit of cold water.
You're 27 years old, man. What kind of heart condition are we talking
here,
Let me
finish the story here. So I got the hot water, and then I have these little, like, cups that babies drink out of, these plastic cups.
Yeah, I know the ones you're talking about.
Sitting there like this.
Yeah.
Pouring it on my head, taking a little soap, pouring,
and
I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, this is how the people do it over here. I do that.
No, that's not how the people do it. The people just turn on the shower and shower in the cold water.
Like, in this tub, we didn't even have a shower head. Like they had a shower head, but it was broken. It just came out like in a
out of a hole. Yeah, out of a hole. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I'm not accustomed to that. So the point is, I wasn't taking a cold shower. Okay.
Okay.
So I did that. And then
every time you showered,
for about a month,
I bet that reduced the amount of showers you were taking on a daily basis.
No, I don't mind taking 1 bucket of water upstairs every day, every night.
You did that every night, man?
Absolutely. I can't, crazy. Bro, because the AC sometimes works, sometimes the electricity goes out.
I'm surprised you even had AC in a house.
No, even in the barrio they have AC. Like that wasn't the barrio.
Yeah.
There was a place called Los Guandules, where Winnie was originally from, where when it rains, the whole house gets flooded.
Yeah.
And you can hear the rain on the tin.
Yes. So going back to what I was saying, so the way that they design the houses in Colombia, it's exactly like this. You know, you can hear the water on the roof. So it's an open concept house where the rain is like your living room area.
Yeah.
There's like half of it is being rained on, but it's actually quite interesting because it doesn't flood onto the rest of the house. Like there's like a path around it. Like it's a weird thing, man. But
let me get back to the barrio situation. Okay, so I take those showers. And then after investigating, I'm like, I don't want to have to keep bringing up water. How do we get hot water in this place? I'll pay for it. I don't care. I call up a guy named Rafael, who's from Guandules. He's also a guy from the barrio, but he's really smart. He doesn't know how to write in Spanish, but...
so he's dyslexic.
No, that's when you can't read. A lot of those guys just didn't go to school.
Dyslexic is when you can't read. Yeah. So what is it when you can't write? There's a word for that, man.
Whatever. The point is, a lot of the guys from the barrio, they didn't go to school. So they know how to speak, que lo que, what's going on, que tal, but they don't know how to read and write. So I got him. I said, I want to get hot water. He pokes around, does some investigating. We had a hot water tank the whole time. Just no one turned it on. In a house of, she had one brother, mom and dad, and a grandma. And they weren't using hot water because they didn't even care for it. But I looked at it. You just turn on the hot water. You wait 10 minutes, and we got hot water. And then I was living like a king. The only thing then I had to deal with is no electricity. And once out of 10 days, the electricity goes off, and I'm in the bed sweating. And everyone else is sleeping like a baby, and I'm sweating. I got to go take a cold shower. Eventually, I had enough of that. I bought a couple ACs, and I was like, you know what? Let's just get out of here, because I couldn't take living in the barrio anymore.
Really?
Even though where that barrio was, there's an empanada lady downstairs making fresh empanadas for 40 pesos each, which is $1 each per Canadian.
Yeah.
There's a water plant.
That's actually kind of expensive for an empanada, man.
$1?
And Dominican, yeah,
Yeah,
bro.
40 pesos.
Right here, over here, we're paying like $2, $2.50 an empanada. It's kind of
Yeah,
expensive,
whatever.
bro.
Well, there's that, and then there's Pollo Frito, and they're making fresh juice. In what area and anywhere can you go down? They're making like they cut a mango, put some
Yeah,
carnation
right, yeah,
milk.
of course,
It's
because
the
it's
best.
growing. Yeah, I mean, you're living on an island, right?
The only
That's what
thing
it
is, right next to that apartment is the highway. So you're just smelling cars all day. And I'm taking a mortgage call, selling a $1.2 million mortgage to my clients in Vaughan.
And you
they
got
hear,
and you got a burro walking by you or what, man?
and there's a bunch of noise. And then, so I knew I couldn't sustain it like that. And I had my desk was in my bedroom. I had 2 little twins crying.
Yeah.
So I had to say, Winnie, take them out.
By
do
this time, they were already born, eh?
They were born in July.
Were you?
I was at Winnie's house from April till November.
Were you there? Were you with her throughout her entire pregnancy?
Yes, with the exception of when I went home from my grandmother died.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was with her, and yeah, it wasn't easy at all, bro. And my business peaked right before they were born, and then I remember I was in the hospital, like sleeping in the hospital and doing on my laptop doing mortgages. And I was screwing up a little bit because I was under a lot of pressure, and I told a few clients like to go somewhere else. And then eventually, after they were born, everything recuperated. Recuperación. My palpitaciones went down, and then I powered through, and that's when I rented the place in.
So
La
what
Julia.
what made you decide to? So I know ultimately that the main factor for you moving back to Canada was you just couldn't work with the kids around because they were babies, they were crying. It was kind of hard to keep the momentum running for your mortgage business. So that was
Well, that's not an
probably.
excuse because I could just get an office.
Well, that's what I told you. But you said, but then you
I
said,
did get an office. My excuse was really me that I wasn't able to handle everything, like personally, emotionally,
like
whatever
you
you want
just
to call
couldn't
it.
keep. You just weren't able to really keep the discipline to continue working as a mortgage broker and being able to.
I wasn't able to go to my potential, like, and at the one point I was fighting with Winnie, and it just wasn't worth it for me to stay in that situation. Even if I go to the office for 9 hours and separate myself to come back to something that's bad,
Mhm.
I was like, I got to take a break, which wasn't an easy decision to do when I see 6-month-old cute babies there need milk and they know me. How do you just walk away from that?
Yeah.
Someone looking in might say, oh, how the fuck can you do that? What?
Well, tell me about that a little bit. So were you with her when she gave birth?
Yeah, of course.
Tell me a little bit about that. I'm not a dad, right? You're a father. So you know what? I actually forget that a lot of the times when I talk to you, man. It's I don't know. It's just I'm so used to just knowing you
do
for
forget
such
that,
a
bro.
long
You're a
time.
weird guy. You're a weird guy.
Well, I just forget the fact that like, it's like there's a gap. I mean, and you know what I'm talking about here. I feel like I was when something like that happens to you, bro. It's like you temporarily die, right? But you're it's like dying, but being able to see what happens to everything and everybody that was in your life,
Mhm.
right? And still being able to consciously know that what is going on around, but it's like you died. You were you were removed from
I
the
got you, I
from the
got you. So
equation.
that's the question.
So when all of those things happened in that period, it doesn't like it hasn't really registered in my brain.
No, I
So
got
I
you. I
do
got you.
forget that you have kids.
Yeah.
But I've always wanted to ask you, like, I'm not a father, right? I'd
Mm-hmm.
hope to be a dad at some point in my life. What was that like, man? Talk about. So when she gave birth, the kids are born. What are you feeling? What's going
So
through
first
your
of all-
what's going through your fucking head when you're about to be a dad to twins, man?
Mhm. So when a woman is pregnant, they see their pregnancy doctor. I don't know the name of the.
I don't know if it's a gynecologist, but
It's
no,
a
there's-
OBGYN. some
that's
bullshit
a
like that.
gynecologist, yeah.
Okay.
OBGYN is a gynecologist.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we go to that doctor, and then she's giving like Winnie advice on what to eat and this and that. She's not following everything. And then 7 months in, she sees that her feet are hinchado, swollen.
Yeah, that's right.
And she's getting swollen. Like you can see her feet. You press it and it goes slow back. So like, what's going on?
Winnie's.
Winnie's,
Yeah.
yeah. So I forget the condition they called it. If I was smart, I'd probably remember. But it was critical enough that she couldn't go on without delivering the babies.
And how far along was she?
7.5 months. So
Okay.
it was early. And it was
Okay.
twins.
So she was about 31 weeks into a 36-week pregnancy.
Thankfully, the babies themselves were about 5 pounds each at the time, so they weren't super premature.
No,
but
that's
they
a
were
decent
premature.
size. Yeah, I mean, it's a
So-
little smaller, but it's okay.
So one day we're sitting on the couch watching TV when he's got a big belly. I
Yeah.
got a smaller belly.
And-
We're just chilling. And
And the water broke.
no, close. The water didn't break, but we got a call from the doctor.
Bro, were you stressing days leading up to this? As
Yeah.
you see her getting bigger and bigger and
Oh, I
bigger,
was stressing
was
every
the
day, bro.
reality of like you being a dad hating you, man?
Yeah,
Were
everything was
you
setting
like,
in.
how was that even fucking feel, dude, man? You know what I mean?
It
That's
was,
crazy.
It was a lot to take in. But the point is, we were sitting there relaxing, and then we get a call from the doctor because Winnie's blood pressure was high, and they said, go to the hospital now. Again, we're going to the hospital every day. Okay, fine, let's go. They say that basically because of her swollen condition, that it's not safe for the girls. It's not even safe for Winnie because her blood pressure was remaining elevated. Even though she was taking pills to lower her blood pressure, it was still too elevated. I think something to do with
They were,
the
they were
egg,
putting
the egg
pressure.
or the something was detached, something like that. I forget exactly what it was, but it was a common
And at
thing.
this point, you already knew it was going to be twins and it was going to be girls.
Yeah, but I didn't know it was going to be early.
Okay.
So
So you're at the hospital. So this
I was
happens.
at the hospital. Next thing you know, the doctor says, "Listen, we gotta do a C-section and we gotta take them out tomorrow." And I'm like, "Huh?" Like that was a shock to me. That was a shock to me.
What
'Cause
did you feel?
I was
You
like,
were, you were 20.
overwhelming,
You were
like-
24 hours away from being a father at that point.
I was very overwhelmed.
Did you have to stay in the? I'm assuming you
I
had to
didn't
stay in the
have
hospital.
to, but I
No,
did.
but I'm assuming they kept her in the hospital
for
that
her,
night.
yeah.
And then you obviously you
They,
stayed
they,
there.
They did a bunch of things that I can't even too graphic to talk
Did
about.
you see the C-section happening like
I was
first
there.
hand?
I was there.
You were present in the room, in the
Yes.
surgical
Yes,
room.
but they had a thing over.
So
Like I didn't.
did you see them? Did you see them cut the belly, take the babies out, and cut the umbilical cord
I
and
saw them
stitch
take
it
the
back
babies
up?
out. I didn't see
No
the actual cut.
way, bro.
I have a lot of it on video, actually.
You saw the stomach open.
No, I didn't see that graphic part because they had a curtain. I saw, like they have a curtain right
Yeah,
here.
yeah, I
They take
know.
the baby out. Imagine you're me and Winnie's here, and there's a curtain, and I take the baby and I take it out, and then they gave it to me to hold. Gave it to me. They gave the girls to hold to me.
But both of them? So you were
Not at
holding
the same
both of them?
time, but yeah, and they were crying, and that was the most like emotional, like overwhelming feeling.
Did you cry?
Of course, I cried. Yeah, and
It's one of-
Winnie at the time.
that's one of the few exceptions where men can cry.
Yeah. And Winnie at the time, she wasn't even feeling good while all this was happening. So it was like a big thing. And God, Baruch Hashem, everything worked out. They were healthy. And they needed to stay in an incubator. At least that's what the doctor
Yeah,
said.
for
'cause
sure.
The
for sure.
incubator was $1,000 a day each for them.
What?
Yes, sir. Private hospital.
Do they? Okay, this is
It was
private. okay.
and why, I don't
Do they charge for that here in Canada? Do you know that?
No,
Do you know?
no, it's all covered.
Okay,
bro.
okay.
You pay taxes.
Okay,
But
okay.
they have a public and a private.
Right.
And
of course,
after we heard the bill, I was sweating even more.
$1,000 a day.
The whole thing for the two girls
$1,000 what? Canadian or American?
was 50,000 pesos. In
Oh, 1,000 pesos
no,
a day.
50,000 pesos, 1,000 Canadian. The bill for the two girls and Winnie, take a guess. Which I paid out of pocket because it wasn't insured at the time. That was my fault. We got insured.
23,500.
You're close, a little bit higher.
More.
Yeah.
26K. 28.5. No.
Swear to God, bro.
31.3. Fuck, why would you say I'm close at 23.5?
Because it's
We're already
32K.
at 31.
It's 32. It was 32K.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I wasn't
That's not
expecting
close
that.
at all. by the way.
And the only thing I was thinking about at that point was, why didn't I get the insurance earlier? Like a lot of things that I put on Winnie, I'm like, I don't speak Spanish. Go call these people. She would never call them. That's my fault. I should have.
Of course it
If
is.
I would have just got the insurance, it would have
Yeah,
been.
you gotta do due diligence
Okay,
yourself.
so I did that.
So you had the daughters, and now what's going through your head when you have these two?
They need milk. They need fucking titty milk, and Winnie couldn't produce any. And they don't.
Why she just couldn't, like, her body wasn't producing?
Well, you don't produce immediately after. You get a little bit of colostrum, that's what they call it. But in Canada, if you can't produce milk, they have donor milk right in the same hospital. And there, they don't have donor milk. You can't even buy milk. You can buy the fake vaca leche, whatever you call it, the formula.
Yeah, leche de vaca.
formula.
Yeah.
and give it to them, but that's not what they need, especially if they're premature. So thankfully, Winnie's brother had a girl at the time who was pregnant. She squeezed some, got some milk, and they gave them to Hannah and Ella, and they were just, having some milk and being okay. And one night they told me like Hannah wasn't breathing good, so they scared me. And of course, like how much longer are they going to be in these incubators? And we just go there like a couple hours a day and hold them and say hi to them. But I want to bring them home.
And was Winnie able to like walk in that state? And like, was she able to?
It's funny. The
Jesus,
day after
man.
she gave birth, her
This is
hinchado
crazy,
went
man.
completely down,
Yeah.
and she was able to. She felt much better. Like she wasn't doing very well for the last week before she gave birth. A lot of things. But she was better.
So now you're a dad.
Now I'm a dad.
And you're what? How old? 26?
27, turning 28 in a few months.
Yeah, that's a decent age to have kids. Yeah.
Or
Twin
the earlier
kids,
the
yeah.
better. The earlier the better.
I agree. I think you're right on that. But
Like I always say to myself, oh, if I didn't have kids, I would have been more successful. But it's not about that. You know what I mean?
well, I think they bring a whole different dynamic, and it gives you a whole different purpose to life for sure. But yeah, no, it's a cool story, man. It's an interesting story.